Here is my planned pooling raffia bucket hat that I just finished a few days ago, and I've spent a while working on it and planning it, and I did a whole ton of swatching and a whole ton of design, put it down for a while, and then I finished the hat in about 4 days. This isn't a tutorial. This is just an overview of the design choices I made and the pieces in this hat. So if you also want to design cool things using planned pooling, you can take what I learned and maybe try to do something yourself. Here are the elements in this hat. The crown isn't pooled. It's just random. And it's half double crochet in the round. The band is planned pooling argyle pattern. So it's done back and forth. So you can see the seam here where I had to turn in order to get the lines to go the right way for the argyle pattern. And the brim is my first ever Tunisian project. It's Tunisian full stitch with some short rows to make it do the brim thing. So I decided when I started doing planned pooling, I made a planned pooling hat, cotton hat, and I was really thinking that I wished I could make a planned pooling raffia sun hat. I had a vision of something that I wanted to have happen, and I looked all over Ravelry and did some Googling, and I couldn't find anything pretty much that had the yarn with the color changes for planned pooling. Oh gosh, drop things on the floor. I'm not gonna mind. That had the color pooling, and then I was looking at all the, I basically couldn't find any multicolored raffia yarn. And then I ended up on Ravelry looking for Space-Dyed, and I found this, which is from Japan, and you can't buy it in the States. You have to source it from Japan, which is by Gosyo, and this is what the front looks like, but it's called Amian Space-Dyed yarn, and I'll put the link in the description. The swatches, I looked at the swatch pictures they had on their website. I looked at the projects that were on Ravelry, and it really looked like this yarn would do what I wanted it to do. If anybody knows if there's anything I missed that I can actually source in the US, please let me know, because that would be really great, and then I could maybe try to adapt this to be a pattern for that. Yeah, so yeah, it was made with about 3 balls of the yarn. I bought a lot more because I was shipping it from Japan and I didn't know how much it would take. I thought maybe I'd go for a wide brim, but I really like the bucket hat brim for this. So I still have more, and I will probably buy a different colorway to make a dark orange reddish version. I did extensive swatching to figure out stitch pattern. Here I have I'm calling this my swatch bunting, which is just a big old tangled mess because it has other things tangled in there. But you can see my half double crochet swatch, my single crochet swatch, various Tunisian swatches, various tangled messes. I'm using a D-hook for the half double crochet portion. I went with half double crochet instead of single crochet, and this is something you should know if you want to do a plan pooling hat with raffia. When you do plan pooling, you have to frog a lot often. And when you're frogging with single crochet, it doesn't look right with the raffia. It kind of folds over on itself and it looks just, it gapes. I tried to prevent it from gaping by switching hook sizes, and it just never really worked. As soon as I frogged, I'd get a big hole. The yarn would fold over on itself and wrinkle. And with the half double crochet, it just was smoother and cleaner. It's a bit heavier than you'd expect. If you've made another raffia sun hat before, you've probably used single crochet all around. The other reason I use single half double instead of single is because usually when you make a raffia sun hat and you're using single crochet, it's kind of like crocheted stockinette. It all is, because it's all done in the round, it's all in the same direction, and it all kind of fills into each other in the right way. When you're doing it for plan pooling, you have to change direction, and so the directionality of the single crochet just didn't look as nice. This is, not only is this half double crochet, but it's half double crochet where instead of going into the stitch in the previous row, you go under it. So you have the 3 bars, like the like loop here, and then the extra loop from the yarn over, and you kind of go under that extra loop instead of under that like loop thing. I hope I'm making sense. Yeah, so I, on the band, I tried a few Tunisian things, and I really wanted to do, the reason I wanted to do Tunisian is because I wanted to do the short rows so that you could get, if you can see, you have really cool striping happening this way that kind of plays into the crosses in the plan pooling part. I wanted to do, plan pooling Tunisian, but this is my first ever Tunisian project, and the yarn was confusing, and I wanted to kind of give myself a little bit of a break there, so I wasn't doing my original vision was like, you get stripes of color at specific lengths. I think you can see here, this was one of my original plans where you get this blue at the tip and this orange out, and I thought it would be cool, but I never really got the calculation to work right, especially, and I just wanted to get the hat done. So I didn't go for Tunisian simple stitch, which is this one, because I just didn't like the way it looked with a half double crochet. This is Tunisian full stitch, and the longer bars here, look much more similar to the half double, and I thought it was much cleaner for this kind of mixed project. For the band, and I used an F hook for the Tunisian. For the band, I made sure I picked out very specifically where I started. Oh, right, the other thing is I had to figure out what offset I was using. This is an offset of 1, which if you watched other plan pooling videos, which I hope you have, because this is a little more advanced. I have to jog a bit where I made sure that I had down, let's show here, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. So I have an offset of 1 here, and I tried an offset of 2. It didn't look as clean. I couldn't see the argyle as well. The other thing, so once I figured out my stitch pattern, I figured out the offset, I figured out the hook size based on how I wanted it to look. There were also 2 really nice, I determined how many rows I wanted this to be based on the swatch. And so I drew out, using a computer tool, drew out, depending on what color you start with, what it would look like. So I started in a very specific place in my color sequence to make it have these lines hit exactly where I want, where you have the little diamonds at the top and the little diamonds down here and these lines hitting down here. I considered doing this, which is what I call this a diamond sequence, and I call this a zigzag sequence, even though the zigzags don't look quite as strong. And I planned out, I decided which one I thought would look more the way I wanted it to look and went for that. But it is fun that as long as you're clear about where you start your plan pooling pattern, you can kind of get exactly the look that you're going for, where the color's fading exactly where you want. And you can overthink things as much as you want to make a very intentional hat. You can use a tool like planpooling.com, or I will release a tool at some point that has more parameters than planpooling.com does, where you can really see how your stitches look interwoven. I just have to get on coding instead of crocheting and do that. And you can also use graph paper. There's some good videos up there that I'll put a link in the description to, one about charting your plan pooling. I have used graph paper before. I also drew out the different options to kind of figure out what I wanted. My charts are here. So here are 2 options for my zigzag chart, and here are 2 options for my diamond chart. I'm really happy with this. I did make some either mistakes or just things that I could have thought through more. Undoing, at some point I just had spent so much longer planning this than executing, and I just wanted to get it done. So I went on hiatus after planning it and then was like, no, but I want this hat. So the top, I didn't go into the previous row stitch, and it means that it's just much floppier than this like stiff stuff. I don't like that. The other thing is when doing half double crochet, start with 8 stitches instead of 6 and increase. And I did some math to figure out, based on my number of stitches in my pattern repeat, how many increases I had to do to get the right number of stitches to go around here. Probably do another video on that at some point, but this is just a design overview video. So so that was a mistake I made. I also swatched a lot and I measured, but I didn't like spray and lay out and measure. So once I started doing this, I realized that it was way too big and I had to remove an entire color repeat because the raffia just kind of like pulls down as you crochet. So it pulls wider as you crochet. And if you're going to swatch raffia, I would highly recommend spraying your swatch, laying it out on something measurable and measuring it like that. Giving it a chance to kind of stretch because it will stretch. So just keep that in mind if you want to get precise measurements. Thankfully, it increased just enough that all I had to do was remove one pattern repeat and it still fit my head, which is what I wanted to fit an adult head of my size rather than like accidentally making a child hat. Yeah, so I'm really kind of glad that I just stopped doing the overthinking designing, did some of it, stopped doing that, went for it, made a really cool hat. Be careful if you're crocheting Tunisian with raffia because dang, that hurts your hand. So yeah, just be really good about ergonomics. Be okay making mistakes or really, really good about measuring your swatches properly on like a mat with spray kind of blocking. And I hope that this has inspired you to crochet something cool that you'd like. And feel free to ask me any questions. And happy crocheting. I